Kraven the Hunter opens with 11 million at the domestic box office. That's even worse than Madam Web. Production budget was 110 million. Sony has bumped up its co-financier TSG stake from 25% to 50% to limit the loss of the film. So that's a big issue. And then we even have more info here. Kraven the Hunter earns only 26 million on its worldwide box office opening weekend. Again, the film had a $110 million budget. Look, there's a lot of reasons why this happened. Let's start off with not the quality, because I know 3Dub has seen it. I think he's the only one here that actually saw it. Let's start off with the quality, because I think the quality is pretty all over the place. But the big issue with this was I can't watch this movie. It's not in any of the theaters within an hour of me. And I live in a major area. It's just not anywhere. The release on this was extremely limited. And I remember somebody mentioning this in the chat. If you're here, I don't remember who it was that said something. Somebody in the chat was like, it's only releasing in 3,000 theaters or something. It was like a low number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? So when I looked it up that night and realized it was playing nowhere near me, I'm like, this is crazy. So first of all, that's a big issue. That alone. Secondly, the baggage of the Sony Spider-Verse going into this movie was a big issue. Thirdly, I think there's white male fatigue in Hollywood. I'm just joking, but there could be. There could be white male fatigue in Hollywood. Seems like all these movies with white guys as leads are flopping all over the place.
But yeah, realistically, what I've seen it, so you guys don't mind if I kind of tell you what
you can say. Look, I've already been spoiled on everything in this movie. Okay. No, I've already been spoiled on everything. It's
okay. Well, I won't like full on going spoiled just in case be nice. Quality wise, it's better than Madam Web, better than Venom 3, but not better than Venom.
Right.
That's where it's at in the quality wise.
Yeah. I think it's really weird to me because this movie was on paper what a lot of people say is missing in theaters. You have the strong, masculine, macho, blonde, white lead guy in an action movie that's not overly quote unquote woke, and nobody shows up for it. Nobody goes out and watches it. Nobody goes to support. You got Russell Crowe in this movie. Like, it's crazy. This movie had everything going against it. Everything was going against it.
Yeah.
And it's did you also see the thing where Sony apparently did not they weren't banned from using Spider-Man in their films?
You are the king of jumping ahead of me.
Oh, yeah, I like
here. So I haven't even gotten to that subject yet, and you're going ahead and jumping ahead of the line here. We're still talking about Kraven at the moment.
I think one of the biggest issues is that, and I'm pretty sure you probably like, I'm sure that maybe once the year's over and done with, they're gonna get brought up. But like, if it's not like all the movies that do half decently,
if it's not Morbius,
already like they're already what do you call it? Like they're already attached to IP and stuff, and then also some of the bigger flops are IP.
Right.
So it's like obviously like what people trust and what are familiar with and what they maybe haven't seen as well. Because the thing is that all these Sony villain movies are sort of the same. Like they sort of like they just follow, like they're all turned into heroes. Like it's the same archetype that you sort of get over. Like it's not surprising the only one that did decently well is Venom. Because Venom's one of them is the one that actually works and is actually like a recognizable thing. Like, who the fuck knows Kraven the Hunter? Like, even if they played the video games, they might have forgot that dude even showed up.
I'll say, like, I don't remember the last time I haven't seen like a comic book movie in theaters.
Did you see Madam Web? Did you see Madam Web?
I saw Madam Web. I saw Venom 3. You know, it's just because it's something we always talk about. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll see a movie. We're gonna have that conversation. I have zero interest in seeing this movie. Like, you know, like especially with them announcing that it's seemingly the end of this universe. Like that was the final cut.
Apparently there's updates on that too, Darren. We're going to get to that. I mean, there's apparently updates on that statement as well.
Yeah, sure.
Before we move on to that, though, Naruto does have a $5 super chat. Earlier, Paigey pitched the movie Jack, where Robin Williams played a 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that movie, Jack.
How many movies, okay, rough estimate, how many movies do we think there are where you have, like, adults playing kids? It's probably more than a dozen.
Or
right?
say like it's an adult, but it's like
like
it's a kid in an adult body.
Right, either the adult has the mentality of a kid, or it's a kid that's
I
gotta be
even if you, I mean, Freaky Friday probably doesn't count because she's like what 15 or something, or 16 or something.
Yeah.
Is this a different movie? Because I thought like he played basically a kid, adult like kid like thing for Peter Pan and Pan.
That's
where
Hook.
That's
right?
Hook. That's
yeah,
Hook,
no,
yeah.
but like didn't he do the same thing though? Like he had a kid.
He's just older Peter Pan, isn't he? But
I mean,
Peter Pan's
similarly, but Peter Pan's technically a character that never supposed to grow up, so that's why it's like that. But yeah, that makes sense. All right,
you know what? He's always like a trip. I remember watching it as a kid, but the Robin Williams Popeye movie. Did you ever watch that, Eric? Did you watch that?
It's been forever since I've seen that. Forever,
like 80s, like
yeah. It's crazy how long it's been since like a Popeye movie has come out. It's crazy we're getting a new one soon.
Well, yeah, but it's not Popeye.
This might be the first night in a long time, Paigey, that we have not reached our tip goal.
Uh-oh.
I wonder if Paigey's picked
once you take lewd striptease away as the goal, no one wants to.
Well, I mean, I feel like
not exciting.
I think I can speak for everyone in the chat when I say I'm very scared of what those Paigey picks are going to be.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I have to make it something a little less threatening, I guess. I will extend it though. We'll change it up here in a second. Okay. Sony reportedly insisted that Morbius was actually profitable for them. This was from a Variety article. And they talk in detail about numbers. Now, I don't want to say they're lying because it's their studio. They can decide on whatever they want to decide on. But this goes back to the whole argument that we don't know what studios have in terms of like tax rebates, what kind of deals they have with product placement. There's been a lot of movies where the budget was, 150 million and almost 100 million of it comes back to them in rebates and product placements and brand deals and things like that. So we don't always know, but you could easily say they're lying. I mean, if you want to go the conspiracy theory route and say they're lying about it, they totally could be. I don't really see the reason why they would lie about it, because it wasn't like Morbius was like well received by anybody, honestly. I
don't know, like, I mean, there's always the aftermarket thing, like streaming and like airplanes, hotels. I don't know, maybe there's a trend of like, I don't know, I was gonna say drinking blood, maybe like infected spiked blood or something, and watching Morbius. I don't know, like something crazy like that.
Defunct says adults playing children every Adam Sandler film known to man. Pretty much.
I feel like though, like when it came out on streaming, what was that? A couple years ago at this point, like I didn't hear any talk about it. At least Madam Web had like a spike on like, what was it, Netflix? Because like once it came out, everyone's like, okay, I'm gonna check out and see how bad this thing really is.
Yeah, exactly. I think because Morbius had that whole "it's Morbin time" thing that happened, that brought it back into theaters for like a weekend.
That's so funny.
But there was nothing really
no one watched
memeable about Morbius. Whereas Madam Web, there's so many moments in that film that are funny that you can take out of it and say it's unironically a comedy. Right. You know what I mean? So here we go. Speaking to 3Dub's conversation earlier. So he jumped the gun there. The deal between Sony and Disney never preluded Sony from using Spider-Man in the Spider-Man spin-off movies. Spider-Man could have showed up in Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, or Kraven the Hunter, but Sony themselves chose not to. Venom presented a false impression to Sony that audiences would like to see movies about any Spider-Man character without Spider-Man actually being in the film. So they could have used Spider-Man, they just chose not to use Spider-Man.
AKA stupid.
Thoughts on this?
I think they might have got it, like, they probably, obviously they talk about like a Venom gave them like a false sense of like confidence or security around it.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it was just that like they pushed it and it's like it's too late. Like maybe once they got to whatever it was, and they hadn't, because obviously there's meant to be all those teasers in Morbius that were removed. So obviously they had an intention to bring in a Spider-Man, but maybe you never know. Maybe Tom Holland's thing was like, well, I don't really want another Spider-Man showing up. I'm meant to be Spider-Man. Because imagine they cast someone who they prefer as Spider-Man over Tom Holland. Then all of a sudden you're in a pickle, aren't you? Where it's like, hold on, we like this one.
I've always said that my initial thoughts on it were they should have just brought Andrew in and let him play Spider-Man.
That would have been the smartest one move.
Or just get a voice actor and he never takes off the mask. Because why would Spider-Man take off his mask to a villain?
Right.
Just get the voice him in the just get the guy who voiced him in the game or someone that voiced him in one of the animated shows and just get a stunt double to do it.
Right.
Does that not seem like a decent one to do?
He basically would need like something to stop his suit from getting torn up by the villains, because once the villains pulverize Spider-Man, he loses his mask.
None
You
of
just
these
keep the
villains
mask
are
on. You can show an eyeball if you want to. You can show his mouth or his nose. Just don't have him ripping the mask off. Like, I mean, like the whole point is that it should be through the eyes of the villain anyway, like through Venom, through Morbius, through Madam Web, or or well, not Madam Web, I guess, like through Kraven the Hunter and stuff. Like,
I just thought about something. You know what's really interesting is because of the deal between Sony and Marvel, we as MCU fans have not been subjected to what happened with Batman in the DC universe, which is an overabundance of spinoff things, because they weren't able to do it, so they didn't do it. So we didn't see a million MCU projects about Spider-Man spinoff characters. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of interesting, because I can almost assure you with the success of the Spider-Man movies, Marvel would have done Spider-Man spinoff projects 100%.
Right.
We might have seen something with Spider-Gwen or something like that on TV, something along those lines.
You know what though? I almost think I'd prefer that to what these movies were.
Oh, I would too. But the thing is that we could have been bad too.
It could have. Like I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and it's like we were mostly joking. Like these weren't things we would actually like want to pitch. But we were talking about like, oh, you could do like a Mary Jane movie, but like it's like a Spider-Man movie, but like from her perspective, or you could do like a J. Jonah Jameson movie where it's like his hatred, like the hatred of him and watching Spider-Man through his eyes. It's like those are very silly ideas, but I feel like they're at least better than what these were. You know what I mean? It's like
I basically said, like, when I saw this, I was like, you gotta give Sony props for making dog shit content and wasting money so the MCU has no competition for Spider-Man.
They're consistent. I also think it's different. I think it's interesting too, because like we saw those like Madam Web concept art a couple months or halfway a year ago, and it has Spider-Man in it. Like whatever the pitch of that movie was much more Spider-centric. So I do wonder. I would love to have been like a fly on the wall to just see like what those conversations were over these last 5 years when they were making these movies. Like what was kind of in their heads. Were they planning on introducing one at some point and it just became too late? Did they never have an intention on doing so, just thinking they could, do this in a much cheaper way? I don't know. But and here's also the question: the Spider-Man Noir show isn't Peter Parker, but are they like would they have been allowed to use the name Peter Parker for that one? Or
that's a good question. I don't know. I guess so.
That's a weird
question. Specifically says Spider-Man here, though.
So maybe they can't use Parker? Is that the thing?
So they could have used Miles, though.
Yeah.
Or another Ben Reilly. They could have used that character.
Well, like once again, just have it be Spider-Man that shows up. You don't have to say, "Oh my God, Peter Parker's swinging." No, it's Spider-Man.
If they can use the word Peter, they can do like Peter Ham too.
All right,
I'm just surprised that like they wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure. I think there was intentions, but maybe they got cold feet.